In this module, we'll cover the communication system of the ATR of aircraft. First, we'll go over an overview of the system and its components, followed by a discussion of the operational details. The communications system provides for several modes of communication. These modes include aircraft-to-ground communication, interphone communication between the flight deck crew members and the flight attendant and ground personnel, a passenger address system, and a warning and alerting system. The interphone allows communication between crew members, the cabin attendant, and the mechanic through certain ground stations outside the aircraft. These ground stations are located in the hydraulic bay, located in the left main gear fairing, the ground electrical power receptacle, and the unpressurized bay located in the aft fuselage section. This system consists of the Remote Control Audio Unit, or RCAU, and two crew audio control panels. These panels are located on the center pedestal. There is also an ATC transponder. In addition, there is an optional second ATC transponder and an optional ACARS, or Aircraft Communication Addressing and Reporting System. ACARS is a digital data link system used for transmitting short, simple messages between an aircraft and a ground station via satellite or radio. The aircraft has two transceivers used for transmitting and receiving. The captain's transceiver is powered by the DC emergency bus. Therefore, even in the event both generators are lost, the captain's transceiver will remain operational until the emergency battery runs down. The first officer's transceiver is powered by DC bus 2. Each transceiver is controlled by its associated VHF control box, labeled Communication 1 and Communication 2. Each of these displays an active and standby frequency. Also, either radio can be used by both crew members, depending on which one is selected on the crew member's audio panel. The heart of the communication system is the RCAU, or Remote Control Audio Unit. The RCAU processes all of the audio signals from the microphones, the GPWS, the CCAS, and other systems. Then, it directs those audio signals to their corresponding outlet, such as the loudspeaker or the headset. The RCAU is powered by the DC emergency bus, the captain's and first officer's audio control panels associated with each processor is powered by the DC essential bus. Power loss, or processor failure, results in an amber fault light on the related Audio 1 or Audio 2 select push button. These buttons are located on the far side of the instrument panel in front of each crew member. Pressing this button bypasses the failed processor so that only the associated communications radio is available. For example, if the captain presses the Audio 1 select button, only Communication 1 will be available. In addition, the PA, interphone, and other VHF radio are no longer available. In either case, the audio on the affected side can only be adjusted by the associated loudspeaker volume control. Each pilot has an audio panel which is used to make communication and navigation selections. These panels are located in between the pilots on the center console. Along with VHF 1 and 2, there are also communication options for the passenger address system, flight attendant, and ground personnel. Ground personnel can be accessed through the following stations: hydraulic bay, external power receptacles, and aft avionics compartment. In order to transmit through a given source, the desired transmitter push button is depressed. Once a transmitter is active, its associated push button will turn white. Only one button can be selected at a time. Selection of one button automatically deselects any previously selected mode. The microphone options are the hand microphone, the push-to-talk button on the yoke, and a switch on the audio panel labeled Radio Interphone. The captain also has a push-to-talk button located on the nose wheel steering tiller. There is also a microphone switch built into the oxygen mask. When the mask is pulled out of its receptacle, the active microphone is automatically transferred from the boom microphone to the oxygen mask microphone. This microphone is voice activated. The radio interphone selector is a toggle switch that provides 3 different transmission options. The forward position is labeled INT for interphone. In this position, the associated crew member's headset will have a hot microphone. This allows the flight deck crew members to communicate through the interphone system without having to press a transmit button. The middle, neutral position turns off the hot microphone. When this position is selected, a push-to-talk button will have to be used for each transmission, including interphone communication between crew members. The aft position is labeled RAD for radio. This selection is spring-loaded and should be held down while a transmission is being made. In lieu of this position, a crew member can also use the trigger switch on the yoke. The yoke push-to-talk trigger button can be pushed forward for interphone communication or pushed aft for transmitting over the VHF radio. The forward position would be used if the radio interphone toggle is selected to the neutral position. The neutral position is sometimes useful to cut down on static noise through the headset channels. If this were the case, you would push forward on the yoke push-to-talk button to talk with another crew member, or else use the aft spring-loaded radio position of the radio interphone toggle switch. Navigation source identifiers can be heard for the VOR ILS, DME, and ADF radios, as well as marker beacons. Depressing the voice-only push button mutes the NavAid Morse code identifier. When activated, this button will turn amber. Flight attendant calls to the cockpit are signaled via the Calls Overhead panel. To call the flight attendant, a pilot presses the Attendant push button on the Calls panel. The call will be accompanied by a chime in the passenger cabin. The flight attendant can then check the flight attendant panel to find out where the call is coming from. Captain will illuminate white if the call is from the cockpit. Passenger will illuminate white when a passenger presses their attendant button. Lavatory will illuminate white when the attendant call button is pressed from the lavatory. The flight attendant can call the flight deck using the handset microphone. In this case, the blue call caption illuminates in the attendant push button on the overhead panel, and a doorbell chime sounds to get the crew's attention. To speak to the flight attendant, a pilot then presses the intercom button on the associated audio panel. Calls to and from the mechanic work similarly through the mechanic button on the Calls Overhead panel. When the mechanic button is pressed, a horn sounds in the nose gear bay to get the mechanic's attention. The mechanic can then press the call push button next to the headset jack in the gear well to call back to the cockpit. This will cause a blue call caption to illuminate the mechanic push button on the overhead panel. As before, the doorbell chime will sound to alert the crew. The crew can then transmit to the mechanic by pressing the intercom button on the associated audio panel. The crew can make passenger announcements via the passenger address system. Whether through the flight attendant station or the cockpit, all passenger address calls are amplified through loudspeakers located in the cabin, galley, and lavatory. In the flight deck, passenger address calls can be selected on the audio panel. The flight attendant can make announcements with the handheld microphone by depressing the passenger address push button above the seat. The PA system generates a single chime in the cabin. As mentioned previously, the communication system also handles our alerts for the CCAS, GPWS, and TCAS warning systems. Specific details on these other alerts are covered elsewhere in this ATR course. This concludes the Communications module.